We've had MasterChef royalty in the kitchen before, but no one like this. All the way from sunny California, please welcome to MasterChef Australia, the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle!
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Because I could just authentically be myself without so much preparedness.
It doesn't work for you to shoulders back, breasts out, headlights going, and try to look as bitchy as possible.
Well, interesting. What I learned about myself is no matter what my name is or what people call me, I'm still the same person.
Megyn, off.
Can I ask you, please, Meghan, what is your favorite dish to cook for the family?
It's a tough one because I have a lot of palates to appease. Yes. My husband, being from the UK, loves a lot of meat, potatoes, cream sauce. California girl, I like grilled fish, grilled meats, lots of citrus. I just like using really pure, natural herbs and spices. You know, again, if you can pull fresh herbs, like, do you say herbs or herbs here?
We say herbs.
You do?
She don't cook.
I'm sorry.
She don't cook.
It's weird.
Well, she finally went through with it. She flew all the way to Australia, took a seat on one of the country's biggest cooking shows, and for a full 10 minutes, she gave viewers a live moment that many online commenters said made it look like she could not cook, could not judge, and could barely carry a normal conversation with another person. And people have not let her live it down.
Okay, Megs, go.
Trick that people do with pineapple, instead of just cutting it,
Hold it steady, you ginger pots!
to make the perfect little bite, you follow the wedge. When nature has given you all the cues on how to have a perfect taste of something.
Oh, how fun is that? I love it.
Oh my gosh, I work so hard.
Megyn Kelly took one look and called it a disaster. On her show this week, the reaction was brutally direct, and the verdict was simple.
This woman is being paid millions of dollars to show how to cut into a pineapple.
Oh my God. Who the hell is sated by one tiny little bite of pineapple?
Not a single one. And that is exactly why the clip kept spreading. Once people started pointing out every awkward pause and every offbeat reaction, the whole moment stopped feeling like a harmless TV appearance and turned into a bigger online debate about image, timing, and how much pressure comes with being watched that closely. Megyn Kelly's response only sharpened that conversation because critics online said it echoed what they were already thinking, while supporters pushed back and said the internet was reading far too much into a single segment. Either way, the reaction kept growing, and the discussion around her did not cool off at all.
Why can't she name the favorite meal? I've got a lot of palates to appease. So does every mother on earth. What are you saying? Of course, obviously, you have more than one child. You do, but somehow we managed to find an option, and most mothers, or fathers if they're the family cook, would have it at the ready, Dan.
Masterchef of what? Popping corn in a bag? Her favorite dish is word salad. A dish fit for a duchess? Have a tripe sandwich, Megyn. Right. So put the kettle on, loves. The replies turned into a full-on pile-on, and online critics were having a field day with it, even as supporters argued the internet was going way too far.
Hi, oh my God, it's been so long, Miss Meghan Markle.
We got a pesto made from the very part most people would usually toss straight in the bin. Then came a surprise phone call so awkward that the whole internet seemed to collapse into its own sofa. And there was that face, doing something so unusual that viewers said they had never seen anything quite like it on daytime television.
Sorry to interrupt. We've had a phone call to studio.
Hi, my love. Hi. Oh, my husband's here.
Wow! They don't give a shit.
I want you to meet the judges.
My gosh. And yes, there was even a whisper coming out of Sydney that she left one of the judges visibly shaken, at least according to online chatter. It was the kind of moment the show may have wanted to quietly move past. But here is the twist. The judge's emotional reaction is not even the most awkward part this time. For once, the uncomfortable part is just her sitting there, being herself, with nowhere to hide. And that is why the whole thing kept getting replayed from every angle. What started as a single TV segment quickly became a wider conversation about how a public figure gets judged in real time, with every pause, glance, and awkward beat getting turned into a talking point online. Some viewers saw it as harmless entertainment, while others treated it like proof that the moment had gone off the rails, even though that reading was still just internet commentary. That split reaction is exactly what kept the clip alive. The more people argued about whether the response was fair or overblown, the more attention it pulled back to her, and the more the discussion started to feel bigger than the show itself. In a situation like that, even a small expression can be picked apart for hours, and once the internet decides a scene means something, it becomes very hard to shake. So the conversation stayed locked on her every move, with supporters and critics pulling it in completely different directions.
Meghan Markle may have thought her appearance on Australian Masterchef would help, propel her image as a chef, and yet somehow the appearance has turned into master mess. Because according to reports, Meghan Markle made one of the co-hosts cry over the use of the word royalty, which is utterly bizarre as Meghan is obsessed with her own title.
Let's start where everybody else started, with the simple question that had viewers talking right away, whether this woman can actually cook at all.
I think her PR team launched out with some feelers, trying to see who might be somewhat interested in her appearance. And she was like, yes, let's do MasterChef. She has a business based in the kitchen. She has a show based in the kitchen. But unfortunately for the woman, I don't think she enjoys being in the kitchen. And that's a really, really hard sell.
They put her on MasterChef, the show where food knowledge actually matters, and within about 5 minutes, things were already starting to wobble. Then came the gentlest question imaginable: what she likes to cook for her family at home. It was basically a free pass of a question. Most people could answer it in their sleep, but Meghan paused, gave that little head tilt, and the internet immediately latched onto it. Out came the line viewers kept repeating online: "Oh, that's such a great question, that's such a great question."
This is nuts, Meghan, because, the whole concept of Meghan's guest appearance was framed around the idea of a dish fit for a duchess. So it's like, what? That's okay. But describing you as royalty is not.
On a cooking show, when someone asks what you usually make, one viewer said the phrase itself seemed to reveal more than the answer. In their view, it sounded like she was stalling, trying to buy a second or two before coming up with something. They wrote, "She always says, 'What a great question,' to buy herself a second to think up an answer." Nearly 1,000 people liked that comment, and plenty of them said they had watched the same pattern for years. Then, when she finally offered an answer, it was carrot top pesto, a dish made from the leafy green parts people often throw away, for children. On Meghan's show, the reaction was even more blunt, with viewers treating that moment as the clearest example yet of how the whole exchange played out. And that was the part people kept circling back to, because it was not just about the dish itself, it was about the way the moment played out on camera. To some viewers, the pause looked like nothing more than a person thinking under pressure, which happens all the time on live television. But to critics online, it became another example of a public figure seeming unprepared in a setting where confidence and quick answers matter. That is why the reaction did not fade after the clip ended. Once people started replaying her expressions and the timing of each response, the discussion shifted from cooking to image, and from image to how much the internet loves to judge every small detail. Supporters argued that the whole thing was being blown out of proportion, while others insisted the awkward energy was exactly why the segment stuck in people's minds. So instead of moving on, the conversation kept digging deeper into the same question, whether the moment was simply harmless, or whether it revealed something viewers thought they had already noticed. And that is where the criticism kept building. Because once a clip becomes a reference point, every little beat starts to carry extra weight.
All she does is crudités and dips and fruit. So she's a woman who has a cooking and lifestyle show, who sells cooking and lifestyle products, is appearing on a cooking reality show. But she doesn't cook. She makes dips with crudités. Because I'm sorry, that is the easiest question to answer. And she doesn't cook for Harry. Poor Harry. He's not getting home cooking from Meghan Markle, okay?
To some online critics, she came across as someone who does not really cook, someone who puts together small dips with crudités and presents them like a signature dish, and maybe even someone who does not seem especially interested in food at all. That is how the discussion was framed online. And the reaction was harsh. In that version of the story, food was never seen as the main point. It was treated more like part of a polished image. The sarcasm got sharper from there, with people joking about Harry not getting much of this at home, and others making comments about the children having to sort out their own treats. It was blunt, it was messy, and it fed right into the bigger criticism. After all, She sells jam. She promotes cooking kits. And her name is tied to a whole lifestyle brand built around being warm, homey, and effortlessly good in the kitchen. So when she appeared on national television and struggled to clearly describe making even one meal, critics online felt the moment landed with extra force.
I totally agree, and it was obvious when you watched her stupid show that her biggest recipe was the Martha Stewart recipe for one-pot pasta, which she stole. It was very clear if you line up the two recipes next to each other, they are virtually identical, which tells you a lot.
One viewer wrote, "So obvious she can't cook. Couldn't even name a dish for her family. Embarrassing," and that post pulled in around 700 likes. Others piled on with lines about limited skills and a very limited vocabulary, saying the moment managed to say a lot while somehow saying almost nothing at all. Some viewers even started calling it cookery cosplay. In their eyes, she was dressed like a chef, surrounded by the props of a chef, sitting in a chef's chair, and playing the part beside people who had spent decades doing the real thing.
Are you a little bit nervy, Casper?
Well, you know,
nervy.
The ticket to the semi-finals is on the line, and very high caliber guest judge. So, yeah.
That's so sweet.
That's so sweet. That's so sweet. And she should have been like, don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. Did you see my show? It got canceled.
Then the dessert round came up, and somehow the whole thing only got more awkward. When she was told she could taste anything in the kitchen, she replied, "If you can pick it, you can have it. Except you cannot pick chocolate, love. Chocolate does not grow on a branch." And that line is exactly why online viewers kept side-eyeing the moment, because this was the person being framed as the food expert while standing in front of actual chefs. And that is exactly why the moment kept spreading online, because people were not just reacting to one awkward answer, they were turning the whole segment into a bigger conversation about image, performance, and what viewers think they know about her. For some, it was harmless television banter, the kind of offbeat exchange that gets clipped and replayed until it looks far bigger than it really was. For others, it fit right into a wider pattern they already believed they had noticed, where every small stumble gets treated like proof of something more. That split is what made the discussion linger. Once a clip starts getting read as a symbol instead of just a clip, the details begin to matter more than the original moment, and every pause, joke, or awkward line gets picked apart from a different angle. So, the debate kept moving, with supporters saying the reaction was overblown, and critics treating the whole thing as one more example of a polished public image getting tested in real time.
The kids jump in a lot, especially with the garden. I think it's such a nice luxury to be able to have so much space and things to cook. And if they say, "Mama, can I have dessert?" You say, "If you can pick it, you can have it." So
you can't pick chocolate.
No, you can't pick chocolate, which is great. So you can go pick a nice piece of fruit or whatnot. But no, we always have a nice, as my husband would say, pud after dinner.
Oh, those poor children. If you can't pick it off a tree, you can't have it as dessert. So... Okay, great. Sounds like a lot of fun, Dan.
She's that mum, isn't she? Using her Duchess title in order...
To be honest, I went back and watched that great question clip 3 separate times, and it still looked painfully awkward each time. People online were baffled that someone with a cooking brand seemed to have no answer ready, and the rewind did not make it any easier to watch. If anything, it felt even more uncomfortable the second and third time around. So no, that was the conclusion some critics jumped to, even though plenty of famous people are not exactly kitchen experts. What sent this particular 10 minutes racing around the internet was something else entirely, the expression she kept making with her face.
To make money in the entertainment industry. So the fact poor Poe mentioned the word royalty is totally irrelevant to that. It's the use of the word and the term Duchess as part of a challenge in a reality TV show, which I think would have left the late Queen Elizabeth II completely horrified.
The problem was watching her try to be a person. Maureen Callahan, the columnist, sharp as ever and not one to miss a detail, watched the appearance and pointed to what many viewers seemed to feel but could not quite name: the eyes.
I spent the morning watching that fucking Meghan Markle special, and it sobered me right up.
The Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle!
Callahan's read was, the second it is not about her, the second she is not the one being talked to, the eyes just go vacant. They go black. Lights on, nobody home. And once that comment hit the internet, people turned it into a full contact sport. One reviewer even gave it a nickname, calling it the Megyn emoji. According to that online reaction, she closes her eyes, lets her mouth drop into a small O, and holds the expression in a way that looks almost identical to the emoji, over and over again. That is what kept the clip alive, because once people locked onto that expression, every second of the segment started getting reinterpreted through the same lens. What may have been a simple on-camera moment was suddenly being treated like a bigger statement about how she handles pressure, how she comes across in public, and whether the polished image people expect matches what they actually see. And the internet does what it always does with moments like this. It freezes one awkward reaction, loops it, slows it down, and starts building meaning around it. Supporters pushed back, saying the reaction was being stretched way beyond what the segment really showed, while critics insisted the clip said more than people wanted to admit. Neither side was backing off, which is exactly why the discussion kept growing instead of fading out. At that point, the conversation was no longer just about a cooking show appearance. It had turned into one of those online debates where a single look, a pause, or a strange facial expression becomes the thing everyone argues over, and the original context gets smaller by the minute. That is how a brief television moment can take on a life of its own, especially when viewers think they are watching personality, performance, and image all collide in real time.
And it's just pretty disgusting. And I think, again, proves who Meghan Markle really is. She's just shallow, vain, and vapid. It's all about the Instagram clicks, all about the follows for her. She cares nothing really for her husband, his trauma, the death of his mother, anything like that, or even her own children. They are all there for her personal exploitation for money and cash.
Someone else noticed her rubbing her temples through half the show and brushed it off with, "Yes, love, we can all see you rubbing your temples. Nobody is buying it." Another viewer claimed you could almost watch her brain freeze up live on screen, like a game character losing its connection for a second. And one comment that stuck with me said you could spot a little 404-style error flash across her forehead every time she seemed to glitch, which is exactly the kind of remark that kept the reaction thread rolling.
What I do have is a very particular set of skills. Skills I have acquired over a very long career. Skills like, just give me a sec.
Writing stuff on bananas?
Then there was the small detail of what she wore. For a bright, sunny daytime cooking show, she showed up head to toe in black, and online commenters immediately said it felt wildly out of place, almost like she had stepped in from a somber occasion instead of a cheerful kitchen set. On a stage full of color, steam, and upbeat energy, that contrast stood out fast. And then came the tasting. Oh, the tasting. They handed her a spoon of celeriac ice cream, and she took what looked, to some viewers, like an absolute age to bring it to her mouth. She made a face, and some people online joked that she seemed to be building a whole reaction before even trying it, as if she was composing a disgusted expression in real time.
Pedro, you're a brilliant cook, but you definitely need to try everything together with this dessert.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even more so than usual.
Megyn nods.
Yep.
Yeah, what she said. She took forever to get the spoon up to her mouth. Like, that was her evincing her disgust. Like, she didn't want to try it. She was already disgusted when he said he was going to do it. In fact, she was outraged.
Some online commenters said the cook never really won them over and seemed to be leaning hard into the moment, almost like it was an audition. Even the eating, according to viewers, came off as a performance, with the small head tilt and pressed lips getting noticed fast. One viewer summed up their reaction in 4 words, calling it lizard tongue, mean girl. And that is why the reaction never really settled down, because once people decided the clip meant something, every tiny detail started getting pulled into the same conversation. A pause turned into a personality read, a facial expression turned into a bigger debate, and even the way she sat there was being treated like evidence by strangers who had already made up their minds. Some viewers said the whole thing looked overly rehearsed, while others argued it was just an uncomfortable moment getting blown out of proportion online. That split is what kept the clip moving, because no one seemed to agree on whether they were watching genuine awkwardness, careful image control, or just a normal television segment that happened to catch her at the wrong time. What made it stick was not just the food or the setting, but the way the internet filled in the blanks around every second of it. Once that happens, the original scene stops being the whole story. It becomes a canvas for whatever people already want to believe, and in this case, that meant the conversation kept drifting further from the cooking show itself and deeper into how audiences read celebrity behavior in real time. So the moment kept mutating, with each replay adding another layer of criticism, doubt, or defense. And even when people disagreed on what they saw, they were still talking about the same clip, which is exactly how a short television appearance can keep echoing long after the cameras stop rolling.
And also looking around and wondering, how on earth did I get here?
She's lazy. I don't think she wants to work. They don't want to work. They want to twerk and sit around and film videos. So I think she should actually run for office because Meghan Markle, you're lazy.
This is a trained actress, someone with years on suits and plenty of experience in front of a camera, yet online commenters said she seemed to struggle with the one thing an actress is usually expected to do: come across as relaxed and naturally at ease. One reviewer put it bluntly, saying, "She has real trouble acting like a regular person," which some viewers found especially odd for someone with that background. It even led a few people to question where the success of Suits really came from, though that reaction was clearly based on opinion, not fact. And this is the part that should make people pause. If you have spent 9 years hearing that this woman is warm, radiant, and a natural-born host, then moments like this can feel like a sharp contrast. And that is exactly what had people talking.
Markle doesn't like food. And I'm someone who loves my food. You know, Meghan, I battle with my weight. I love my food. It's like my passion in life. And I can really pick out that Meghan Markle doesn't like food. She loves to drink, right? She's a big drinker. She always has a cocktail in hand,
Yes.
always has a wine in hand. Again, not attacking that. You know, I like a drink too. But I genuinely believe she is not a woman who likes food, who enjoys food. Food for her is some type of weird social status thing. And so, yes, those poor kids, no one wants to go out and forage for their dessert.
Watch her standing next to Po Ling Yao. Po is all sunshine, bubbly, generous, and widely adored across the country. And every time Po tried to bring some of that energy her way, it was like watching someone run straight into a brick wall. By the back half of the episode, poor Po seemed completely drained, almost wrung out. One viewer joked that she looked like she was fighting for her life up there, and while that was clearly just online commentary, it was the kind of reaction people kept repeating. The warmth does not seem to bounce off Meghan and land on you. It gets pulled in and disappears. Some viewers said she comes across as the most exhausting person in the room, and for once, cameras from every angle were there to capture why people felt that way.
There's a time and a place for things, and I think Meghan is doing everything with clicks in mind. What will get the clicks? What will generate the interest?
Now, if you thought the pesto was the awkward peak, sit down for this one. The most mocked moment of the entire episode, the clip that had plenty of adults online cringing hard, was Harry. Right in the middle of it, completely out of nowhere, a surprise phone call came through. And there he was, Harry on FaceTime. And that was the point where the whole mood shifted again, because a surprise call like that was never going to stay casual once the internet got hold of it. People immediately started reading into every second of the exchange, with some viewers saying it made the moment feel even more awkward, while others thought it was just an offbeat bit of TV that happened to land badly online. What should have been a quick interruption suddenly became part of the larger debate about how she presents herself on camera, and whether these kinds of moments are being judged too harshly or exactly as people see them. The reaction was not really about the call alone anymore. It was about the way one small appearance kept turning into a bigger story, with social media users dissecting every glance, pause, and reaction as if it all meant something deeper.
You mentioned privilege. My husband has always said, with great privilege comes great responsibility.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
Projected high on the massive studio screen, Harry appeared as a tiny thumbnail-like figure, waving at a room packed with strangers who had shown up to cook. It was one of those moments that instantly pulled attention away from the segment itself. The top comment on the whole situation said it plainly, and more than 1,100 people backed it right away. The surprise phone call from H was the most cringe-worthy thing on the entire show.
I wish you could try this. These dishes are fantastic.
I see.
Yes. Yeah.
There's nothing like seeing a thumbnail size
It's really delicious.
plated
Hot sauce that,
dish
well, you know me, it's a sample. And
over
it is
FaceTime.
so
We can stop
good.
it here.
I don't know.
This adds nothing to the show, nothing.
Nothing. That comment picked up more than 1,100 likes, and Maureen Callahan did not seem to get past it either. There is something oddly unreal about a thumbnail-sized figure popping up over FaceTime and adding almost nothing to a cooking competition. while all the attention gets pulled away from the contestants who are fighting for a life-changing win. Honestly, you could not make this stuff up. A lot of viewers seemed convinced the whole moment was staged, or at least carefully set up and rehearsed down to the second. One reviewer said the quiet part out loud, writing, "The show did not really want her there in the first place. She is the washed-up half of the package. What they booked, what they paid for, was that little cameo of Prince Harry. What is going on?"
What's going on? Have I interrupted something you?
Well, we're actually
Yeah, it's a
tasting all the
taping.
dishes. We have
It's a competition with food that's hot. It needs to be tasted at a certain temperature. Oh my God, these two are the worst.
Hi guys, it's amazing. They're so talented. We wish you were here. He's in Canberra right now with the veterans.
And the chandeliers in the background. That's
With the
very
veterans.
See the joints.
The footnote.
All out here. Your beautiful wife.
that you guys have.
Have you parented feeds? That is the kind of spectacle people end up watching for the numbers. In the eyes of online critics, she almost felt like the opening act for her own husband's face popping up on a screen, and when she tasted a dish and softly said, "Oh, H would love this," one viewer immediately fired back with the obvious response, "Yes, as long as your husband would love it." And that is exactly why the conversation kept stretching far beyond the show itself, because online critics were not just reacting to one awkward beat, they were arguing about the entire performance around it. Some viewers said the cameo made the segment feel less like a cooking appearance and more like a carefully managed television moment, while others pushed back and said people were reading too much into a brief exchange. Either way, the reaction kept growing, and the smallest details were getting treated like evidence of a much bigger problem. What was supposed to be a light entertainment segment had already turned into another round of commentary about image, timing, and how one appearance can be picked apart from every angle. That is why even a simple reaction from the audience seemed to carry extra weight, because once the internet decides a scene looks off, it rarely lets it go.
I love this dish. I mentioned my husband is a real meat and potatoes kind of guy. This feels like the most elegant, elevated version of that. H would love this dish.
Oh, good. Oh, good. As long as H would love it. That's what they're all there for. As long as your tool of a husband would love it.
There is a joke making the rounds that basically sums up how some viewers read the whole marriage, and it is pretty ruthless. People said the expression on her face when she called Harry was the same look she gives when she cracks open the basement door once a week, checks that he is still there, and drops him a little food. That may sound harsh, but nobody who saw that FaceTime moment seemed eager to defend it. In the eyes of online critics, that did not feel like a guest judge at all. It looked more like someone who could not make it 90 seconds on a stage that was not centered on her without phoning home for a prop.
Poe has to say to Megyn, because Megan's clearly never even watched the show before, like they're realizing this, like they have to explain everything who were on that set, where it was like, oh my God, like it was a heavy lift because she was supposed to be the central happening of the show. Her appearance is like the big moment of the season, and it didn't go that way. Like we had to like help her along.
And in the end, that is how a lot of people read the appearance, as just that, an appearance. She was booked as a guest, but online commentary said she carried herself like the main attraction of the entire night, and Maureen Callahan put it pretty bluntly, saying Megyn was supposed to be the big central moment of the episode, but it simply did not land. Some viewers even argued that she had to be guided through the segment, with the production team seemingly helping shape the moments around her. You can notice it in the small details. At one point, the on-screen caption says, "Make it sparkle," which many people took as a subtle nod toward Meghan Markle, and she appeared to move right past it, without reacting much at all.
The Sandringham Summit was absolutely adamant in the fact that Meghan was not able to commercialize aspects of the British royal family. Yet my understanding, Meghan, is she's being paid for this MasterChef Australia experience. She wasn't doing this for altruistic reasons. She's not donating her fee to a charity. This is straight money in her pocket, and yet she used her Duchess title within it. So that is immediately a contravention of the Sandringham Summit.
Then there was the personal touch she seemed to lean into, walking up to each contestant one by one and pulling every eye back toward herself, which online critics said made the moment feel overly stage-managed. Megyn Kelly had one of the sharpest takes on that pattern. She called Meghan a kind of disaster tourist, saying she seems unable to walk into any room, any event, anywhere in the world, without finding the nearest camera and turning the moment back toward herself. That is why the backlash did not stay stuck on one clip, it started spilling into the bigger conversation around how she shows up in public and how much of it feels spontaneous versus carefully controlled. To some online commenters, the whole thing looked polished to the point of feeling stiff, like every small move was meant to be noticed. Others argued that the criticism was going too far, since a short television appearance can be judged too harshly once people begin breaking it down frame by frame. Still, the reaction kept circling back to the same idea, that even a light segment can turn into a very different story when viewers believe the energy feels off. And once that happens, every glance, pause, and gesture gets treated like part of the bigger narrative, whether that was the intent or not.
There's been a lot of reaction to this suggesting she can't go anywhere. She's a disaster tourist. She can't go anywhere where that doesn't bring up a tragedy, where she doesn't insert herself, or in this case, her family, right smack dab in the middle.
Here is the detail that shows just how badly that moment seems to have landed. When the episode aired, the show had apparently edited her introduction behind the scenes. On the day itself, Poe had welcomed her as Masterchef royalty, and the greeting sounded warm enough. But according to chatter around the edit, Meghan's team were not pleased with that wording, so by the time it reached viewers, the phrase royalty had disappeared. In its place, the introduction described her as a global icon, a philanthropist, and a humanitarian, so the show seemed to soften and polish her entrance on the way out, which is a pretty striking move. Even then, online reactions suggested that the change still did not save the segment.
Given Meghan's track record, I am inclined to believe that these sources to New Idea are correct. She was simply trying to make Meghan feel comfortable, trying to be warm, and you saw that look. Meghan hated her.
The version of the story that followed this episode all week and kept showing up in gossip coverage and across social media was that behind the scenes, Poe was left in tears over how everything unfolded. Megyn Kelly did not soften her words. She said it would not be a Meghan Markle appearance if someone was not, according to the chatter, left upset by the experience. That is the way the rumor moved through the conversation.
This woman is really, really not oppressed. She's opportunistic.
That is the kind of effect this one woman seems to have. The clip gets recut, the fallout gets managed, and somehow she still ends up looking like the villain in the eyes of online critics. Anyway, back to the lighter side of it. There is one more moment people zeroed in on, and a lot of viewers said it was the funniest one of them all. And that is exactly why people kept replaying it. Once a clip like that takes off, it stops being just a TV moment and starts getting treated like a verdict on the whole public image, fair or not. Online critics leaned into every awkward pause and small reaction, while others said the reaction was doing more harm than the clip itself. Either way, the conversation kept growing, because viewers were not only watching the segment, they were reading into what it supposedly said about the bigger picture. That is how a short appearance turns into a much larger debate, especially when the internet decides the subtext matters more than the scene itself. And from there, every little detail was getting pulled apart all over again.
On Masterchef Australia, taped in April during the couple's trip down under and aired this past Sunday, Meghan told the judging panel her relaxed cooking style comes from growing up surrounded by California's incredible produce, raised on farm-to-table meals with her mom as the household's incredible cook who had her watching cooking shows from an early age. Warm, aspirational, exactly the brand her lifestyle business is selling.
So there she is, dressed like a food expert, and people started digging into where this supposedly deep culinary side of hers actually came from. What they found, according to the online chatter, sounded like 4 completely different childhoods. On Masterchef in Australia, she was presented as farm to table and said she grew up watching her mother cook fresh, wholesome meals from scratch. Beautiful. But on her own Netflix series, the story sounded very different, with her describing herself as a latchkey young person who let herself into an empty house and relied on Jack-in-the-Box tacos and microwave dinners. Then another version popped up, with talk of the $4.99 salad bar at Sizzler, and then yet another, with fine dining at Musso and Frank alongside her dad.
Except on her own Netflix show, sitting across from Mindy Kaling in season 1 of With the Love of Meghan, she told a very different story. She was a latchkey kid, she said, raised on fast food and microwavable TV tray dinners with everything compartmentalized, and she named El Pollo Loco, Taco Bell, and Jack in the Box specifically because her mom loved their tacos.
Everyone rolled out with the same stone-faced look. And the honest truth is, whichever version best flatters the room she happens to be standing in that day, she has said it herself, in her own words, right there on camera.
So go back further and there's a third version. In a 2021 letter to Congress about paid parental leave, Meghan wrote that she grew up on the $4.99 salad bar at Sizzler and felt lucky her hardworking parents could afford it as something special.
One reviewer placed the different versions side by side and raised the question that seemed to matter most. If your mom was such a wonderful cook, Meghan, why did you keep saying you had to teach yourself? Around 700 people were asking for an answer. You cannot really have it both ways, and in this case, it has sounded like 4 different stories. The boldness of it, honestly. It is the late Queen's line coming back to haunt. That is where the backlash gets messy, because every new interview, every old clip, and every polished public appearance gets dragged back into the same conversation. Supporters may say the details were taken out of context, but critics keep pointing to how each version seems to shift depending on the setting, and that is exactly what keeps the debate alive. It is not really just about cooking anymore, it is about credibility, image, and whether the public feels they are being sold a version of the story that changes whenever the spotlight changes, and once viewers start looking at it through that lens, even small moments begin to carry a lot more weight.
In 2013, an Instagram post remembering lunches with her father after tap and ballet class at Musso and Frank, one of the most expensive all Hollywood restaurants in the city.
Recollections may vary, and Meghan's versions seem to vary a lot more than most. Online critics argued that her stories appear to shift depending on the setting, the audience, or whatever opportunity is on the table at the moment. Make of that what you will. That, according to the backlash, is what the whole Masterchef discussion raised questions about. Not exactly a chef, and not really even a judge in the strict sense, but someone many viewers felt was presenting a carefully polished version of herself, one that changes from one appearance to the next until it is hard to tell which story is being sold that day. One viewer called it insufferable, and the words stuck fast. For a lot of people, it seemed to fit.
We get 4 childhoods at this point, 4 audiences, and 4 completely different economic realities, all delivered as the honest truth in the exact moment she was telling it. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Don't you know I'm Sussex now, Dan?
She was so mad. She hated that woman who introduced her. Poe is actually a big name in Australia. She's beloved. She came through MasterChef. So she started off as a contestant. She's now a judge, really beloved in Australia. So obviously Meghan decided to hate her and decide that she's a real bitch. And she totally castigated Poe behind the scenes.
So let's add it all up. She may never do that herself. This was the moment she had been chasing. The jam, the show, the whole lifestyle reinvention, all of it building toward exactly this kind of spotlight. Sitting in the big chair, as the resident expert, the supposed star of the kitchen. She finally got the attention she has seemed to want for years, and online critics said she used it to confirm every doubt people already had, live, in just 10 minutes, in front of millions. Megyn Kelly called it a disaster. Maureen Callahan described a woman who, in her view, makes everything revolve around herself and seems unbothered by the backlash. Callahan went even further and suggested the reason nothing seems to stick is that, in her words, the woman is a bit of a psychopath. Meanwhile, a lot of YouTube commenters saw something else entirely, a polished image that did not land, and thousands of reactions, including many from women the palace may have hoped to win over, kept circling back to one word: cringe. Honestly, the nerve of it still does not stop being shocking. The wheels were not falling off the Sussex story this week. They had already come off years ago. This was just the first time she took the whole thing onto live television and let millions watch it roll straight down the hill. So, What was the most cringe-worthy part for you? Was it the carrot top pesto, the question she could not quite answer, or Harry popping up on that tiny phone screen looking polished and distant? That really helps this channel reach more people who are seeing through the performance. There is a lot more on the way this week. Next up is the real reason Netflix has reportedly gone quiet around her, and why the streaming deal she was counting on seems to be wobbling behind the scenes. That one should be here in a couple of days, and you will want to catch it. The mask is not slipping anymore. Now it feels like she is taking it off herself, right there on camera, and calling it a cooking show. If you want more on that, share this with someone following the story, comment with your take, and see you on the next one.